welcome back to Sesame Street. Today we'll be talking about energy and the environment. Let's get into it right away. Here we have Poland. We have the coal power station in Poland. And this type of power plant is called a coal-fired power plant, which goes from chemical, thermal, mechanical to electric energy. So, you might be asking me, why is this good for us? Right? Well, I'll tell you what. We have highly reliable power, so which means it's very good. Number two, it's cheap. Doesn't cost a lot of money. And that's great. But there are also some bad things, kids, that we need to watch out for. Massive carbon dioxide emissions. Carbon dioxide is bad for us and the earth, so we should avoid that. And secondly, it releases toxic heavy metals. Toxic is bad for you, so you need to stay away from that. Let's go back to my hometown, Edmonton, Alberta, which is located in Canada. Now you must be thinking, Canada? So cold! And I promise you, the bears will eat you. What? I'm just kidding. Anyways, so I took a trip to the west side of Edmonton, and I decided to go on a little rock climbing trip and check out the photovoltaic panels in Edmonton. So you must be asking, kids, what are photovoltaic panels? Well, those photovoltaic panels contain cells which turn the energy from the sun into electricity. So that is used to power your homes, your tablet, and your washing machines, in your fridge where you keep all your veggies, which I know you don't eat, but it's okay. So, some good things about having these solar panels is that it has no moving parts. So, let's picture this. You have your action figure and you move it too much and it breaks. Oh no. But with this, no moving parts, which means you don't need to replace it. Also, it is suitable for all homes, meaning it could be on your roof and you just don't know about it. Might be a good time to take a rock climbing trip up there, you know? Although, there's still some things that we need to look out for, kids, like hazardous chemical waste. So, in order to make these panels, there must be some waste produced that is not good for us. So, you need to look out for that. And also, when it's so cold in the winter and all the snow is pouring down and it covers those panels, we lose energy and there's not enough electricity sometimes to go through your house. But anyways, I believe that this energy is amazing. From the west, we go to the east of Canada. So, let's take a look at the Candu nuclear power plant in Canada. They heard the word nuclear, oh, you must have been scared. But this time around, it's actually a lot more safer than you think. So, let's take a look at the energy conversion. So it goes from nuclear to thermal to mechanical to our everyday electrical. So a few positives of this technology is that it releases very low greenhouse gas, and that is good because greenhouse gases is what makes our planet hotter, and that's why sometimes in the summer it's like plus 50 and you're melting on the street. It also runs almost 24/7. So imagine you on a treadmill 24/7 producing energy. That is insane. But this power plant can do that. However, we have to look at some of the negatives. So this kind of power plant is very expensive. And it takes very long to build, which is not good. And so with that, let's move on to the next one. Let's go down to the south, to the US. Here, we have the Robert Moses Niagara Power Plant. So, this power plant runs on water. It uses the gravitational potential of the water, and it turns it into kinetic energy, so that's moving energy, into mechanical, so that's all your gears moving. And then it goes to your electrical, which you use every single day. Let's look at some good things that this energy brings to us. So, it emits very, very low greenhouse gas. So just like the nuclear power plant, it emits very low greenhouse gas, which again makes our planet hotter. And if it emits low, then that means our planet is getting hotter less and less. And also, it provides immediate power, meaning as soon as you get this thing running, it's already going to your house, so it's already there. But you have to look at how this kind of energy destroys habitats. So see, this destroys habitats because it's interfering with the ecosystem, and that is not always the best. Also, it is very dependent on rainfall. So meaning, if there's no rainfall, this is not working as efficient as it should be. So that's like you not having enough dino nuggies for dinner, and all of a sudden, I have no energy. So that we definitely have to look out for that. Let's take a little trip to the land of the philosophers, of Aristotle and Plato. Greece. So, as we've seen before, solar panels, right? They work on light. This one too, this is called a solar collector. So a solar collector turns that light into thermal energy, which if we compare to photovoltaic panels, they turn that light energy into electric. But for this one, it turns into heat. Let's look at some good things that come with this type of technology. So first, it uses an infinite source of energy, our sun. And that sun powers the panels to create heat. It also can cover huge utility grids, meaning more panels equals more heat coming into more homes. However, just like the photovoltaic panels we talked about before, during nighttime and during seasonal winter times, the amount of light absorbed by these panels is less, meaning less power going to your home. Also, once the panels get old and you need to recycle or dispose of them, it can be challenging because some of their materials are not very safe for the environment, and we need to look out for that. And so that brings me to my next one. It's my homeland, the Philippines. Oh, my heart belongs in the Philippines. Kamusta mga ka-idol? Only the real ones know that. Anyways, in here, in the Philippines, we have the Mindanao Wind Farm, which is just a bunch of wind turbines lined up together. So, to explain that, wind turbines use the kinetic energy from wind and turns that into mechanical energy and then goes into electrical energy, which is what we use. This is a very common and a very good kind of energy and very good type of technology, as it has a very low life cycle carbon footprint. So it has a very low impact on the neighboring ecosystems around us. It also allows agriculture to continue. So let's say you're on a farm, right? And you were to install these wind turbines. That's okay, because they take up not so much space, meaning agriculture can still go on. One of the not so good things that come with this type of energy is that it depends heavily on the wind. So, sometimes there's not always wind, meaning this is not always working and giving us electricity. Now, I'm going to throw in a little fun fact. Big Bird and Count Dracula, blah blah blah, do not like this technology. This is because it poses a threat to local birds and flying vampires, I guess, to the populations. And Big Bird came to me once, and man, it's not even just one eye bruise, it was both, because he got hit by one of these. So I hope he's alright. Love you, Big Bird. Let's take a rocket to Houston! So, here we have an ethanol fuel station in the US. So you might be thinking, what's ethanol? Well, ethanol is produced from the waste of our organic matter. So, let's look at the flow, energy flow. It goes from the chemicals to thermal, to mechanical, to kinetic energy. Meaning, this kind of energy is actually used to power some of your cars. So, let's look at some very, very good things. It uses the organic waste that would usually rot in landfills. So, for example, corn. Sometimes there's extra peels, extra corn that's rotted. However, if we were to convert that into ethanol fuel, they wouldn't have to rot, and it's being used for a good cause. Also, since it's renewable, it can provide continuous power, meaning there's so much land waste that can be used to create this kind of fuel, meaning it's almost never endless. However, there are still some negative things that come with this. Just like regular gasoline, it still pollutes the air, which, is bad for us. And because of high water usage for crop cultivation, because we need to grow so many crops, right? A farmer needs to grow his crops. That also means a lot of waste and a lot of wasted materials. Next, why don't we put on our construction hats and dig all the way down into the ground? We're talking about geothermal heating. So, this kind of heating actually comes straight from the ground. So, let's look at the energy flow, thermal to thermal. Now, you might be asking, why is it the same? Because the energy from below is actually the thermal energy, and that same thermal energy is the one that's heating your home. And this kind of energy is actually renewable. And so if we were to talk about what's good about this kind of technology, it actually has no direct fossil fuel emissions. So, you know how gasoline, when you burn it, it shoots CO2 or sulfur into the sky, and that's bad for the planet. This does not, and that is a great thing. It also lasts very long. So, before you do any maintenance or changing with it, it'll be like years before you do anything. However, it is also location dependent. So, let's say if you're trying to dig down and find this kind of energy and you miss, it's not everywhere. Also, it costs a lot since you're modifying your house, modifying the ground. It costs a lot to do that. Man, I could really go for some kimchi right now. Aha! We made it to South Korea! So, this is the Sihwa Lake Tidal Power Station in South Korea. So this kind of power station is actually called a tidal power generating facility. So, let's look at our energy conversion. It uses the kinetic energy from the tides, and it turns it into mechanical energy, which is getting those gears turning to make that electricity. So, this is a very good renewable source. Let's talk about some good things about it. So, these kind of plants last for very long, often 50 plus years, and that's a very good thing. It also captures significantly more energy per unit area than wind or solar because water is denser than air and light. So it would make sense that it generates more electricity. However, this kind of power station is dependent on location. So let's take an example. In South Korea, this plant was made because it has high tides. But if we were to go to another place that doesn't have high tides, then this kind of energy wouldn't be viable. Also, maintenance. So the people underwater can only fix this in certain times. It can't be fixed whenever because sometimes those tides are too strong. and it might wash those fixer guys away. Now, let's go to Iceland, the land of ice, I'm assuming, right? However, Iceland has volcanoes? So, a land named after ice has volcanoes. Ironic, isn't it? So, let's talk about that. Iceland has the Hellishrua, I don't know how to say that, power station, which this facility is called a geothermal electricity generating facility. So, that means it turns the thermal energy from the volcanoes into kinetic energy, to mechanical, and then into electrical. So, this power is very good in terms of how stable it is long term. So, this is a very reliable kind of energy that people in Iceland use. It also has a very small environmental footprint, meaning it has a low impact on the earth, which is good. However, there's very, very high risk for resource exploration, as you know, working with a volcano, I don't know, man, that seems so safe. Am I right? No, I'm just kidding. And also, there's a risk for seismic activity. So seismic activity, that's like mini earthquakes, and that's not good. Shifting lands, that's not good, especially for the plant, because they could be unstable, and that's not good. Now let's take a look at this Earth energy system, which is a ground source heat pump. So, let's look at the energy conversion. It turns thermal energy from the ground to mechanical energy, which is a pump, and it turns that into thermal energy. And it's a very renewable kind of energy. So, the good thing about this one is that it actually provides cooling and hot water functions. So, you're thinking, oh, just thermal, right? No, also cooling. It also lasts very long, with upwards of 20 plus years. There are also some negative aspects that comes with this. So, it actually is very expensive. And, you know, the city and the world is trying to push for green energy, but some people hesitate because of how expensive it is. So it kind of delays our plan for a green future. Also, it leaks. It could have potential CFC leaks from the fluids. So, CFCs are chemicals that actually deplete our ozone. So the ozone is what protects the Earth from our harmful UV rays. And once that ozone sort of breaks down, we are exposed to harmful rays that could damage us, and that's not good. Konnichiwa, watashi desu ka? We're going to the land of the rising sun, Japan! So, in Japan, they developed a car which uses hydrogen to power it. So it uses a technology called a hydrogen fuel cell. So, it uses the chemical energy from hydrogen and it turns it into electrical energy to mechanical energy, which is the engine, into kinetic energy, which turns your wheels. And this is a very good renewable energy. So, a couple of positive aspects that come with this is that it only gives off water vapor. So unlike our usual combustion cars that we use, they release harmful chemicals into the earth. But with hydrogen-powered cars, they only emit water as the vapor. It also means faster refueling for transport. So, you know, refueling is a lot easier and a lot faster when it comes to this technology. However, there are some negatives that come with this. Hydrogen is very flammable. So there are challenges when storing hydrogen, especially in a confined space like an engine. So that's definitely a hazard. And it's also really expensive to store and send out. So that could drive some people away as it might not be readily available for everyone. So kids, we went over 12 different kind of energy technologies today. So, I'm going to ask you, what do you like? You like geothermal? Tidal? I don't know. But for me, what I think is ideal for Alberta is photovoltaic energy, which is the solar panel energy that we just talked about. So, I believe that this energy is ideal for Alberta because it is clean, renewable, and is well suited to Alberta's climate and weather. So, a couple of reasons why I choose this is that Alberta actually takes in about 2,000 hours of sunshine every year, making it a very effective source of energy. It also produces electricity without releasing greenhouse gases, which means we're walking towards a cleaner kind of energy. Also, using this kind of energy reduces Alberta's dependence on fossil fuels, right? So, almost everybody drives cars. But by converting our homes to solar energy, we actually decrease that carbon footprint. Now you might be asking me, kids, there are some other technologies that other people might argue are better, like hydroelectric, wind, or natural gas. They say that this actually gives more consistent energy to all of us. Yeah, while that's true, I will still argue that with these challenges, I believe that solar energy is still the best for environmental, economic, and societal. And those benefits, I think, are much better. So, as time goes on and our scientists are working, there are batteries that are getting much bigger and are making it more reliable for us to store energy from the sun. Meaning, the better the batteries get, the more energy you're able to store, meaning the more reliable it is for us. So, that is why I think that solar energy is the best kind of technology and energy for Albertans. Well, kids, I hope you loved today's episode, and I definitely learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot too. And so with that, today's episode is brought to you by the letter T, as in Tarshir, as in me, and the number 8, my favorite number. So long, kids!